I'm WG, and in this video I'll be teaching you everything you need to know about artificing and how this whole procedure can save you millions. Take it from someone who's already lost millions on artificing before I discovered this entire system and how it fully works. So, what you can expect from this video is how to perfectly artifice every single stat, as well as also which stats to prioritize in which order, and obviously once again, which characters truly benefit from you artificing their stats in the first place. So now let's get the Artificing Basics out of the way. The step number one is you have to beat the entire Arknights Endfield story up to the point where the game tells you that you're now free to explore Talis 2. Once you've done that, once you've explored Talis 2, you'll be finding a secondary quest. Don't look at my quest being half complete. You'll find a quest in the important section and it will be called something Artifacing. So that is what you need to do, and once you do that quest, you'll be obviously learning the bare bones basics of how it works, and you'll also unlock this Artifacing tab in your gear assembly, which will then be your way to now get to artificing instead of having to run to the researcher all the time. So that is artificing at its core. Outside of that, for artificing you need two things. Number one is going to be in the stock redistribution market. In the factory goods section, you have these ruling artificing crystals. Every artificing attempt requires you to buy one crystal and craft one piece of gear. So you're then going to go out of your way to buy these crystals at 12,000, and then to get the gear pieces themselves, you're going to pay another 8,000. So at least at the cheapest variant, it's going to be 20,000 ruling money per artificing attempt. So now that you have the artificing, now that we know all the currency, there's still a little bit of a difference, and that is gear sets. Right here, if you look on your map, you'll find this purple icon. This purple icon, which currently says 8 out of 8, tells you that you found all your gear sets in Wuling City, and then if you go to Jingyu Valley, there will be 4 more. So that is your next goal. Make sure you have all the gear sets so that you have the entire spectrum of gear available to you. Now, there is even more gear for you to unlock, and that you do through the regional development system and stock redistribution. So the stock redistribution is a facility that you can find in Jingyu Valley. You should have at this point already taken advantage of it, and if you haven't, make sure you unlock this ASAP, because it's at the end of the day just free money, and then also upgrade it to level 2 to give you the biggest range of products for you to be able to buy. And then in this stock itself, you're going to find different blueprints. Now, these blueprints are nothing you can find on the map, and you will have to spend the extra 5,000 ruling money to be able to unlock these blueprints for the first time, so that you can craft them normally. So now let's actually talk about the thing that is going to save you millions and how you can apply it for yourself. So we're going to take our turbid cutting torch right here, and I want to upgrade my turbid cutting torch. Usually you take one of the same and you fuse them together and you get a better of what you had before. But what you then notice, and it's something that took me around 70 artificing attempts to figure out, is that there is this good match section right here. So this says standard match, whereas this one says good match. Now, what is the difference, and when did the tutorial actually tell us about it? It's in this very last slot right here. Gear artificing attempts have a small chance of direct success. A successful attempt also resets the current artificing progress. Chance of direct success is slightly improved when the gear used as material has a higher base stat than that of the gear to be artificed. And that is exactly what we can see here. Our turbid cutting torch starts with a base stat of 32 intellect, whereas our obviously the piece that we want to artifice also starts at 32. But on the other hand, the hot work pyrometer has 41 intellect, and the Redeemer seal even has 43 intellect. It is still unsure or unprovable if there is a difference between just having a higher stat and having a slightly higher stat, like if there's a difference between hot work pyrometer or Redeemer seal, but due to all the pieces costing you exactly the same resources, you should always go for the piece that has the highest stat over what you want to artifice. And now, just to close the circle, how does this save you money? If you have a higher chance of succeeding on an artificing attempt, that means you have to do fewer artificing attempts for the same or even better results. Very important here, these at 99% cost reduction Wuling artificing crystals, the 200, they are limited. These do not refresh, these won't come back. Meaning that if you can get more out of your Wuling artificing crystals for 12,000, you need to buy less of the ones for 60,000, which is what we'll have to use once we burn our initial stock of 200 down to 0, meaning that the sums that you'll be saving here are, they're going to snowball, especially with at some point every single artificing attempt costing 68,000. On every single character, or better said every single gear set in the game, you will be able to artifice up to 8 different stats with a good match. So let's go piece for piece and discuss how you can get the highest chance of success with the least amount of attempts, starting from chest piece to gloves and then the kit. So the chest piece itself, it's pretty straightforward. Overall, you won't ever be able to get a good match on the chest's main stat, nor will you ever be able to get a good match on a chest's skill stat or third substat, whatever you want to call it. And that is due to the fact that these stats don't have a higher matching equivalent, so you would just be best off, for example, just crafting more tight for light armor so you could work on any of these stats. In opposite of that, for the secondary stat, you will in fact be able to just buy a chest piece that has your secondary stat as its main stat, meaning that here, for example, the hot work exoskeleton has strength as its main stat, making it obviously higher than our stats, giving us the good match, giving us the increased chance of success. Now, for gloves, the same thing again applies. We won't be able to find anything higher in the main stat department, nor will we be able to find anything higher in the substat department due to these being limited, and every glove, even if it has the same stat, having the same role anyway. So again, you're better off just crafting the piece or any piece that fits. Once again, this comes in useful in the strength section, where we would, instead of having a main stat intellect substat strength, we just use, let's say, a main stat strength substat intellect to get ourselves the good match for our gloves. Now, kits are where it gets really interesting, because if things align, you'll be able to good match every single one of these 3 stats on every single kit. Now, the way this works is, what you need to do is you need to buy yourself 4 different blueprints. These blueprints can all be found in the stock exchange, so let's just quickly head to stock redistribution and buy ourselves the remaining 2, just so you can obviously see the process. So we head to regional development, into the stock redistribution, scroll down, and then we buy the remaining redeemer tags twice. So now we have the 2 jade seals and the 2 redeemer tags. The interesting part about these is, due to them being non-set pieces, their stat as well as also their substat is higher than what you're going to find on set pieces, allowing you to use these pieces as fodder to good match upgrade any kit you want. So a quick example of this would be us trying to enhance the Eternal Arknights Power Core Ultimate gain efficiency, where using just another one of those would give us a standard match, where using a Redeemer Seal is actually going to give us a good match. Another important factor here is that they only have a singular stat. They have will, intellect, agility, and strength. So depending on what kind of stat you want to upgrade on what piece, you need to buy a different one of those. So for example, here we're going to craft ourselves a few of these in the intellect department, so that now under Artifacing I can go to my turbid cutting torch and just already work with a good match with a stat of plus 43 versus even a hot work parameter of just plus 41. I can now work on upgrading the intellect all the way up to plus 3, or however long that takes me. So that is basically the way you do it. You use for the kits especially these redeemer packs, and then the subsets you can apply it to are crit rate, ult gain efficiency, combo skill damage bonus, and final damage reduction. So now let's talk about who you should artifice first, who is even worth it of artificing materials, and also in which order would you artifice which pieces and which stats. So the biggest beneficiary, the biggest gain is definitely for main DPS or DPS characters in general, due to them being able to use all 3 stats to their utmost in intellect for the attack boost, strength for the attack boost, and basic attack damage or whatever substats you have, translating into once again a damage boost. The more damage you deal, the faster the enemies die. So then on a DPS, the priority is going to be quite simple for me. I'm always going to work on the 3rd stat first, due to that usually having the best output in that it is different scaling, it's a different multiplier. Different multipliers together make a bigger whole than just bumping up attack and attack and attack. So then once I'm finished with the 3 substats on my DPS, I'm going to start working on these attribute stats. I guess we're gonna call them attribute stats. And the way I would work on this and prioritize it is always go with the main stat that your character works with first, because not only are you going to get a bigger increase because the base is bigger, you're also going to get a bigger return on investment due to how these stats work, in that you get 50% of any intellect stats as an attack boost, whereas for strength you only get 20%. So if you increase your intellect by 10, you get 5% attack. Increasing your strength by 10 only gives you 2% attack in comparison. So that is DPS and DPS related characters, where for example I am going to work on completely finishing out a DPS set, whereas then your next task is, for example, working on sub DPSs or working on stat scalers / support characters. What I mean with that is, once again, the 2 most obvious examples are going to be Akikuri, in that she gains or gives you more SP the more intellect she has, and then somebody like Zaihi, where you can gain yourself a bigger amp the higher your intellect is. So these stat scalers or even support characters in general will then be my next target. Though the way I'll be approaching this here is going to be different. For example, my goal for my Akikuri is to get this intellect as high as possible, meaning I am very much interested in that 3rd stat, in increasing the secondary attribute, which for her is intellect. So that is what I'm going to artifice first, which again will also pretty much be applicable to any support, due to them mainly benefiting from the ult gain efficiency. And that is, if we go out of our way to upgrade, let's say, the agility stat, I pretty much get nothing out of it, due to the agility then again translating into attack, and that attack not being of any significance on Akikuri. Same is true for Gilberta. Any character that doesn't need to deal damage does not benefit from you giving them more of their stat, unless you for some reason need more healing, or they have some type of scaling, as we've mentioned with Akikuri. So they're always, my goal is going to be the 3rd stat first, and then let's go back to the Akikuri example. I'm going to actually work on intellect and completely ignore agility, because I really just want to push that intellect as high as possible. Though then again, we are getting close, we're on 430 intellect, and at least for her there is a soft cap of 500 intellect. So the moment I hit 500 intellect, I'll probably stop artificing there. Though as far as I can tell, there should not be one such cap on how much you can push this amp effect, because it's based on intellect instead of giving you a cap. So for example, my goal with a Zaihi would be to stack that intellect as high as humanly possible. So just as a brief recap, I'll always be working on the 3rd stat first, then on the character's main stat or scale stat if it applies, and then after that, only if they are a main DPS will I ever work on the character's secondary stat, to try to squeeze as much DPS potential out as possible. And that should have been everything you need to know about Artificing and how you can save yourself millions in Wuling money by succeeding early, where it took me ages. Peace!